to start the session with a new chapter, that is classification of elements. So this is our website classics.com. Once you go to practice, we have different packages available. Since now we are doing classes for NEET, we have to go to NEET Premium, and we are having revision notes as well as test series. You have test for each subject. You have n number of tests and one, that is 38 full test for your NEET full test. These are all subject wise. This is a complete test. Once you feel confident enough in each chapter, in each subject, that is physics, chemistry and biology, you are full free to take the complete test and analyze yourself where you are. Based on the score, you could be able to predict it. What are all the chapters you need to do revision? What are all the chapters you need to learn the concept once again so that your performance is the best? Let us start the chapter today, classification of element. If you look at the chapter based on the percentage basis, you could feel that it is just 2%, but the concepts which we study in this chapter, it is a base. The chapters which you are studying in class 11th, you are going to use it in your class 12th. Hence, the base will be from this chapter. There are many definitions and many concepts which we should understand before we go deep into the chapter. Hence, you cannot ignore this chapter. Okay. So let us start. And if you go to revision notes, this is a precise note prepared by the Classics tutor to simplify your work. Instead of reading the entire chapter pages together, we feel bored and difficult. Hence, if you go to revision notes, this will give you a precise understanding, or you can say the simple formula or the important concept chapter wise for each subject. Hence, it would become, or we have made your work easy. It would be very simple for you to revise that chapter and then you can take the test. So if you click on revision notes, it opens in a new tab, which I have already opened it. Today we are going to start the chapter classification of element and periodicity in properties. When we talk about classification of element and periodicity in properties, you would know that there are many trials and error it was done in order to analyze that what is the procedure we are going to follow or what are all the elements. Many trials and error was done by many scientists in order to group the elements in a proper format, which would be simple for us and it would be easy for us to understand. So if we talk about Dobinian's triad, based on this, he tried to arrange the certain elements. According to him, it was with similar properties in group. Similar properties in group, and that group was of 3 elements. 3 elements group with similar properties he collected, and he arranged that in such a way that atomic mass of your middle element, if I say element 1, 2 and 3, atomic mass of the middle element should be, or it can be nearly the same as the average atomic mass of first and the third. He tried to propose this triad and he was successful enough in preparing for few elements, but this also became a failure because for all the elements he was unable to arrange based on the basis of similar properties in grouping them, whether their sum is going to be the average of the third one or not. So this was a failure. You could learn the limitations of your Dobinius triad. And after Dobinius, the new person who came, he did a try of your Newlands, that is Newlands law of octaves. His name was John Newlands, who proposed this law of octets. Among that, he said is when elements you are arranging in the order of increasing atomic mass, it will be a repetition. That is, every eighth element will have similar properties to that of the first one. First and eighth, according to him, first and eighth will have similar properties. And that is why he called it as a law of octaves, because he had a similar relationship existed. For again, he was also successful enough for bringing this relation for few elements, but not all. Again, this also had certain limitation. His classification was successful enough, but only till calcium. And further, he was unable to proceed. And next person who came, that is your Mendeleev's periodic table, the physical and chemical properties of the element in a periodic function of their atomic mass. So Mendeleev's arranged the elements in the order of increasing atomic masses, and he called that as arrangement was called as periodic table. But to some extent, we could conclude that Mendeleev's periodic table was successful enough, because he also placed elements with similar characteristics in vertical rows. He also called it as groups, horizontal rows as periods. So to some extent, we could conclude that Mendeleev's periodic table was successful enough, but currently we are following modern periodic table. Currently we are using modern periodic table, and there are many physical and chemical properties of the element will be the periodic function of their. Difference between your Mendeleev's periodic table and your modern periodic table is he was following atomic mass, and modern periodic law is being followed based on the atomic number. And in detail, you could study the drawbacks of each one and then how the drawback was overcome in the next. And ultimately, modern periodic law became the most successful enough, and now we are using our modern periodic table. So based on your modern periodic law, what we know? We know that groups and periods. So vertical rows, we are going to call it as a group. And so total, if you are saying the long form of your periodic table, they are going to consist of your vertical rows, which we are naming it as a group. And there are total 18 groups. And even in Mendeleev's periodic table, he also said that each group will be independent of the other. And when we are saying periods, horizontal rows, we are going, and yes, you have to learn the characteristics of your groups and period, so that it will be important for you to analyze the properties. That is also important. And when we talk about the periods, horizontal rows in your periodic table, you're going to call it as a periods, and there are totally 7 periods in the long form of your periodic table. So based on the groups period, all this arrangement was done. All the elements got its position in the periodic table. We started following the modern periodic table. But the important part is your total periodic table was classified into 4 groups, which we all know that it is your S block, P block, T block, and your F block elements. And in coming chapters, we are going to study each block of the elements as a chapter. S block you have, P block we have, F block, F, T and F block elements we have. So each block of elements we study as a chapter. Hence, this chapter becomes important because this gives you the base of all the coming chapters. So how do we classify your S block elements? How do we say that this particular group of elements or this particular group and periods, I consider it as a S block elements? That is important. So when we say S block elements, immediately we have to understand that elements in which the last electron should enter your s orbital. Last electron should enter the s orbital. And you know, the general outer electronic configuration of your s block elements will be your ns1 to 2. Hence, immediately we come to a conclusion that first and second group of elements, we call it as your s block elements, and that is categorized under your periods. Sorry, it is categorized under your metals. And obviously, the we have to know the properties of each and general characteristics, what we say it as your of your s block elements. So general characteristics we all could study, we all know that they will be considered it to be a soft metals. Then basic important point, it will be having low melting and boiling point. So all those properties is important because based on the properties of your s block or p block or your t and f block, you will be asked questions. So that is also important. Like if we are talking about your s block elements, immediately we conclude that they are soft metals. They will have low melting and boiling point. They will have low melting and sorry boiling point. And along with that, they will have low ionization energy and they are highly electropositive. So when we say electropositive, what should we conclude from that? That means they will have the tendency of losing the electrons, or you could say they lose the valence electron readily to form your plus one. And this we know that it will be, we call that as your alkali metals. So when you are learning your S block elements, it is very, very important. I'm saying you again that properties are important. You should know how the rate, I will tell you the definitions of each, but I'm stressing that you should know how the atomic radii is differing for S block or how it is differing for P block, because in the question when they ask, they will ask you to arrange the orders. When we are doing the test, it will be clear for you. Hence, when we study the properties of your P block, which one we call it as your P block elements. Elements in which obviously the last electron should enter any of the three p orbitals of their respective outermost shell. They have to reach the three orbitals of their respective outermost. Hence, when we are doing the electronic configuration, or and it is also important that you know the electronic configuration or the which we call it as general electronic configuration. This is also asked as a question. The general electronic configuration of your S block, P block, T and F block. For each block, you should know the general electronic configuration. It is asked in exams. And when we are talking about the properties, immediately when we say it is P block or the last electrons enter into P blocks, we should understand that it should be a metalloids. And here it falls under the category of metalloids and non-metals. Exception is some of them are metals also. Hence, when we look into our notes, see, each type is explained in short, and this information would be sufficient enough. So when we talk about your P block elements, I have given the outermost electronic configuration, and the elements belonging to this group number are from 13 to 18. It is categorized under your P block elements. And when we talk about the general properties, P block elements will include both metals and non-metals, but basically the number of non-metal will be higher compared to your metals. And metallic character, when you talk, no, it will be increasing from top to bottom within a group, and non-metallic character will increase from left to right. And the next one is, if we talk about your P block elements, what do we say in your P block elements? As usual, you should know the general electronic configuration of your D block elements, and it is coming under the group of metals, and of course the third to 12th group of elements, we call it as your D block elements. And in this you are having three different series, that is we call it as 3D series, 4D series and 5D series. Each range is important. So D block elements, these are elements of your group number 13 to 12, and this is also, we give a name that we call it as your transition elements. Transition elements, we call it as a D block elements. And when we talk about the properties of your D block elements, of course they will be hard, malleable and ductile. And the metals, because these are being categorized under the group of metals, they will be having high melting and boiling point, and they are of course good conductor of heat and electricity. And the next group of element is your F block elements. So when I say your F block elements, they have two rows actually, and at the bottom of your periodic table you will come across your F block elements. That is nothing but the two blocks which is available at the end of the periodic table. The two blocks are your lanthanides and your actinides. And when this is again very important, outermost, or you can say general electronic configuration for your F block elements. So when you study the properties of your F block elements, in that, it 4F series, it is considered to be your lanthanide elements, and total, if you count that, it is 14 elements. And your 5F series, the name given to that is actinides, and it is also, you can name that as your F block elements, or we call it as your inner transition elements. And of course, you have to learn the properties even for your F block elements. And basically, just like we grouped your S block to be metals, P blocks to be metals, sorry, non-metals and metalloids, your D block. In the same way, your F block elements are categorized to be radioactive elements. It is categorized to be the radioactive elements. So basically from the beginning we are saying, okay, S block is metals, P block is non-metals, or D block is metalloids, so and so we are saying. But we should understand that what is metals then? Or before we learn metals, I would like to tell you few definitions, that is atomic radii, covalent radii, ionic radii, and van der Waal radii. There is a relation with each other. So atomic radii, immediately when we say radius, so it is nothing but distance from the center of your nucleus. It is distance from the center of the nucleus to the outermost shell. Outermost shell. So center of the nucleus, when we say an outermost shell, that is, for example, if I'm saying this to be my nucleus and this is my outermost shell, hence this gap I will consider it to be my atomic radii. But yes, of course, we should also focus on the fact that it will be very difficult to find out the accurate size of these things, because the size of the atom will be too small and it is very difficult to isolate the atoms. And also you should remember that, based on, though we say it is very small, but it exists, hence you could never say that electron is never zero and it will never, even you can say that up to large distance it can travel, or all those conditions. And size of your atom will keep on changing from one bonded state to another. Therefore we have to consider the effective size instead of saying accurate size. When I say atomic radii, it is the effective one, and you cannot say that this will be the accurate one. In the same way, you will have covalent radii. How we conclude covalent radii? So covalent, already you be knowing covalent means sharing of electrons. So if I say two electrons, like for example, this is hydrogen and this is also hydrogen. So the distance between this one, so this you will say that atomic radius of H2. It is the distance between the center of the nuclei of your atom and mean position of the shared pair of electrons. So that we conclude it as to be covalent radii. Or in short, if you want to convey, you can say that covalent radii is nothing but it is 1/2 of your internuclear distance between the bonded atom. It is half of the internucleus distance between the bonded atoms. And the next one is ionic radii. Once again, you can say that it will be 1/2 of your internuclear distance between the bonded atom. But yes, when I say ionic, the distance between it should be cation and your anion. It becomes the distance between the cation and your anion in any ionic crystal. For example, you can say your NaCl. This if I say R, and this if I say to be your plus, so the distance you will say has to be ionic radius. And yes, your van der Waal radius, once again, it is the half of your internuclear distance between the adjacent atom, which is belonging to two different molecules. It is the distance between the adjacent atom of substance belonging to two different molecules. And basically van der Waal radius or van der Waal radii you can find out in inert gases. And very important topic from this chapter is two concepts, that is your ionization energy, electron affinity and electronegativity. But before we go into that, we should describe, as we were, that is your metals, non-metals and metalloids. How do we say your metals, non-metals and your metalloids? So basically more than 78% of your all known elements, it is being categorized into your metals. And this will be basically present in the left side of your periodic table. So if I say no, okay, fine, non-metals, these are present in top right hand side of your periodic table, and these are basically your, or you can say usually it is gases or solid at room temperature. And metalloids, elements which is going to show the character of your both, that is metals and non-metals, they that we say to be your metalloids, or it is also called as semi-metals. Hence we should know how do we categorize as metals, non-metals, and your metalloids? You know, based on the total number of valence electron present in the outermost shell, we conclude that it is a metal, non-metal, and your metalloids. This you would have been studying in your lower classes. So next important is, what is ionization energy? Amount of your energy, or amount of energy which we are going to require in order to remove an electron from your valence shell of your isolated gaseous atom. We say that as your ionization energy. So immediately we should understand that it is saying that required amount of energy required. So required itself is indicating that ionization energy is positive. So it is always given from outside to remove an electron. We are providing an additional energy from outside in order to remove an electron from your valence shell. So when you are studying in detail the chapters, you will find out that you are studying first ionization energy, second ionization energy, and so on. So there we categorize that it is the amount of energy you are requiring in order to remove your first electron or in order to remove your second electron. It depends. And next important is your electron gain enthalpy. And so what is electron gain enthalpy? So we can consider electron gain enthalpy as an opposite term of your ionization energy, because here we are going to say that it is amount of energy released when you are trying to remove, or sorry, when electron is being added to the outermost shell. It is the amount of energy which is being released in order to, electron is added to outermost shell of an atom, and this energy will totally depend upon the extent of your, or you can say extent of attraction for the incoming electrons. Whichever electrons I am trying to bring in, the concept will totally depend on your energy. So the metallic, or we are saying, and yes, electron gain enthalpy, or your, when you are studying, you do focus on its properties, because electron gain enthalpy will become more negative as we move along the period, and it will become less negative down the groove. This is important to note, because when they may ask you to, they will give you certain elements and then we will be asked to arrange that. And in regarding to your ionization energy, noble gases will have exceptionally high values of your ionization energy. Why? Because they will be stable. They have stable electronic configuration. So wherever you are finding that they are having a stable electronic configuration, it is obvious that ionization energy will be high. Why it will be high? Because we have to apply, or we have to give additional energy in order to pull that electron from there. And helium has the highest value of your ionization energy. In the same way, chlorine has the highest negative electron gain enthalpy. And the next important is your next concept, that is your electronegativity. What is electronegativity? It is nothing but the tendency of an atom to attract your shared pair of electrons more towards itself. It should have the tendency of attracting the shared pair of electrons towards itself. And this property will totally depend upon the size and the nuclear charge. So if I say, if the size is less, Ultimately, more will be the nuclear charge and hence more attraction for your shared pair of electrons. So when we are talking in your periodic table, it is fluorine is the most electronegative element and your cesium is the least electronegative element. You could conclude that fluorine is the most electronegative element and your cesium is the least electronegative element. So by this we can conclude that and concept of this chapter, that is classification of elements, and let us try taking test so that we could understand how the questions are being asked and it will be helpful for you to practice. So let us go to, please switch off your video. Let us go to chemistry, and today we are doing the chapter classification of elements. So let us pick a test from it. You could take each test n number of times so that it is helpful for you in order to practice and make yourself confident enough in that particular chapter. And students, it is not enough to view or to listen to one test. It is important that I'm solving a test paper, you're listening to the solution, it is good. But it will be more useful only when you try to take the test, when you try to solve the question, and wherever you are wrong, you can give n test. The result will give you the solution also so that you can rectify your mistake. It is very, very important that you take test, practice yourself, and feel confident. So now let us do the first question. The first question they have given us is the first ionization potential in electron volt of nitrogen and oxygen atom are respectively given by. So let us solve it out. So what they have said, the first ionization potential in the electron volt of nitrogen and your oxygen. So when we do the electronic configuration of your nitrogen, 1s2, 2s2, 2p3, because you know that your atomic number of nitrogen is 7. And when I do for oxygen, it is 8. So you will get 1s2, 2s2, 2p4. So here when we say N is going to be more stable because it is half filled. It is half filled because you know p orbital can accommodate 6 electrons and here it is half filled. While discussing the concept, I already told you if it is fully filled or it is half filled, it is stability increases. Hence, you could say that here the stability of your nitrogen will be high. So if I look at the option, if I say stability is high, what did I tell you? It is said that ionization energy, see, noble gases and exceptionally your ionized because of their stable electronic configuration. Stable electronic configuration. So when I look at these two options, which one has stable electronic configuration? Comparing nitrogen and oxygen, your nitrogen has stable high electronic configuration. Hence, you could conclude that if the stability is more, ionization energy you will require will also be more. So from the given option, if I check which is possible, A or D, both 14.6 done. But the second one, oxygen, it is less stable, that means it should require less ionization energy. That means my option A should be right, because here both is same value, and the other two option we neglect because nitrogen should have high potential, right? So we can say that it is option A is correct. We can save and go to next. Here they are asking atomic radii of fluorine and your neon. Sorry, yes, fluorine and neon in angstrom units. Which one? So how they have given us option and value. Do we know how to calculate those value? No. So when we do the electronic configuration of your fluorine and your neon. So when I do, it is 1s2, 2s2, and it should be 9. That means you will get 2p5, 4, 5. Neon 1s2, 2s2, 2p6. So for which the radius value is high? It is of course your neon. So look at the option. In which option your neon should be higher? Correct? Neon should be higher. So in this option, whichever is having higher radius, the value should be high. So let us mark the right option in it. Thus we can say that option A is correct. Save. Next. The electronegativity of the following element increase in the order. As I told you while learning electronegativity, properties are very important to learn, and the order is also very important, whether it is increasing down the group or it is decreasing down the group, increasing along the period or decreasing along the period. That is very important to learn. Hence, it is a fact that electronegativity along a period and decreases down the group. So you could conclude that option C will be the right one. Save and go to next. The first ionization potential of sodium, magnesium, aluminium, and silicon are. They have asked us the order, that is first potential. See, sorry. Here we are having ionization potential. Options are for which it will be high. So from the given option, we have to come to a conclusion. Magnesium is having higher potential energy compared to aluminium, because your magnesium will have stable electronic configuration with your completely filled 3s orbital, whereas in aluminium, if you compare, the 3p orbitals will be incompletely filled. So you can conclude that your option A should be right, because we know magnesium is greater than your aluminium. Let us save and go to next. The statement that are true for the long form of periodic table, it reflects, this is a fact from the concepts of your, or from the properties of your modern periodic table, you can find out. So it reflects the sequence of filling of electrons in the order of sub-energy level S, P, D, and F. It is true. It helps to predict the stable valency state of the elements. Yes, this is also true. Hence, you can say that your both option 1 and 2 should be true, and that is in your option A. Because they have asked which are all true, that means your option 1 and 2 both are true. Let us save and go to next. Next comes is your correct order of your electron affinity. Again, I am stressing, I have told you that we have to learn the order of your electron affinity, increasing, decreasing, your ionization energy increasing, decreasing, important, because if you know those conditions, then only we will be able to attempt these type of question. So in halogen, your electron affinity will increase from fluorine to chlorine, and then it will decrease as the atomic size is increasing. So it is obvious that your fluorine has less electron affinity than your chlorine due to small size. So which one option it could be? Your option C, because here alone condition satisfied. But still you can say that electron affinity of your F is greater than those of your Br. So your option C should be right. Let us save and go to next. I think this is also the same question. And the correct order of your ionization energy, here comes the correct order of your ionization energy is your nitrogen will have the maximum ionization energy in this given option. It is not in the entire elements. Here carbon, nitrogen and oxygen, when you compare, nitrogen will have maximum ionization energy, because when you do the electronic configuration, you could come to know that it will have half filled electronic configuration. Hence you can say that your order option C will be right. The correct order of ionization energy in your silicon. So even again, if you are learning the properties, you will come to know that phosphorus will have maximum ionization energy, because when we do the electronic configuration, even here phosphorus has half filled electronic configuration. So we will say that phosphorus will have highest electronic configuration compared to these two. Hence your option C should be the right option. Let us mark and go to next. Electronegativity of fluorine. How do we find out that electronegativity of fluorine? Electronegative value, you will come to know when you learn the chapter. You have a Pauling electronegativity scale, and that will help you to find out the electronegative value based on the valency. If you know the valency of your element, based on the valency, you should look into the electronegativity value in the Pauli's electronegativity scale, and from that you can say what will be the electronegativity value of that particular element. But since it is fluorine, we all know that it is the most electronegative element, and fluorine will have electronegativity of 3.98. Fluorine has electronegativity value of 3.98, which you could conclude approximately to be 4 on your Pauling electronegativity scale. So let us mark that and go to next. Which of the following element is expected to have maximum electronegative value? Which of the element is expected to have maximum electronegative value? How do we conclude that which is having the maximum electronegative value? There should be some order. See, basically, if you're looking into your periodic table, the easiest way or shortcut which I could tell you, that electronegativity is nothing but it is see how much elements we want, or that particular element, I mean how many electrons is required by that particular element. So it will be very simple to find out that whichever element, if it is nearby, no, if it is near to the chlorine, near to the fluorine, that will be more electronegative. It is a simple trick to find out. That is not the exact solution. It is just a trick. If you are trying to find out that particular element nearer to fluorine, then that will be highly electronegative. Once again, I am telling you, it is just a tip, not the exact method. So compared to this option, your sulfur will have the maximum electronegativity value. Next is, which of the following element has the basic oxide? So basic oxide, it is obvious from the given option. It will be very simple for you to find out that option A should be right, because from the given option only magnesium is your metal. So magnesium being a metal, it will have, or it will form basic oxide. Let us see and go to next. Which of the following element has highest value of electron affinity? Which of the following element has the highest value of electron affinity? So once again, same rule you apply. Whichever is close to your fluorine, that will have the highest value, and in the given option, sulfur will be the right option. Let us save and go to next. Which of the following element is a metalloid? So how do you find out from the given option which is a metalloid? Always remember, when you do an electronic configuration, in order to say that it is a metalloid or a metal or a non-metal, if you do an electronic configuration for metal, the outermost electron should have 1, 2, 2, 3 electrons. In the outermost shell, you should have 1, 2, 3 electrons. Then you could say that it is a metal. If it is a non-metal, the outermost shell, it should have, that is 5 to 7 electrons. In the outermost shell, if you have 5 to 7 electrons, see, there is a difference between valency and valence electron. I am talking about valence electron, not valency. Please do not confuse. I am talking about valence electron. If the outermost shell has 1, 2, 3 electrons, that is valence electron, then it is categorized under metals. If you say 5 to 7 electrons in the outermost shell, it is a non-metal, and of course the leftover is 4. So when you do an electronic configuration for the given option, the element which has 4 as their valence electron, that will be categorized as the metalloid. So you can say, let us save and go to next. Which of the following element will never have an oxidation state of +1? It will never have an oxidation state of +1. So when I say oxidation state of +1, it is of course that fluorine is your most electronegative element, and the oxidation state of fluorine is -1. It can never be +1 because it is the most electronegative element. Let us save and go to next. We have reached the last question. So let us give, and sorry, I have not marked this. So we have completed all the 15 questions. Let us give end test and see which are all right. So when we are doing this, green indicates that all the answers are correct. But if suppose we have given some wrong answer, that will be indicated in red color. And if you click on that particular question, it will give you the right answer as well as the explanation to that answer. If suppose you are gone wrong, you could learn the explanation, and from the explanation you could get the right answer. So that's all for today. Let us see tomorrow with a new chapter and a new questions. But till then, do learn this chapter, practice the test, and have and feel or evaluate yourself and find out if you're confident enough. If not, if you are not confident enough or if you are stuck with any question, you are full free to reach us by the service provided here. That is your a feature added to play6.com, that is us. Through us, you can post your question or you can reach out to us with Telegram chat application. You can post, you are full free to post your question as and when tutors are free, they will revert back to your answer. And if in case you feel that you are not confident with the chapter, you can reach to the Clay6 management and request for one-to-one classes from the Clay6 tutor. Thank you.